Okay, this is part 2 of the Fibermesh. Make sure you have a good lighting, but let's get in here and import our curves that we exported out of Zbrush. So, as you can see, they come in as curves, with a group and everything. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is that we need to make these dynamic curves. Make selected curves dynamic. And I opened up the option box. You can attach them to a mesh if you shift select your mesh. It will allow you to attach it to whatever you have selected. But we're not going to do that since there's nothing really for that's moving or animated. So we're just going to keep it simple. And we'll just do, we'll keep it NURBS curves. And go ahead and just click apply. It should turn pink. Make sure it turned pink. Okay, and now you have a hair system, a nucleus, and some follicles. And it removed the curves into a new group. Select the hair system. And now we need to attach paint effects. Okay, so assign. Okay, make sure you're in N dynamics too, by the way. Okay, go to N hair. And then we want to assign paint effects output to hair. Okay, so if you do not see anything, it's because you were in viewport 2.0. Take a look. You see how I can't see anything right now? Well, it's because viewport 2.0 does not allow you to see paint effects, so go to legacy, and then there you go. You can see your hair now. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go over a couple settings in the hair system. This is by far not a complete tutorial on hair systems, but I'll show you the basics. So for the first part, open up clump and hair, and then the first thing is the hair per clump. So each curve turns into a clump, so you can put how many hairs you want for each one of those curves. Right now, nothing happens when you change it. I'll get to that in a second. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the sub-segments. And this is, I like to think of this as the CVs of the curve. So like the more segments you give, the smoother the paint effects is going to be, the geometry that the paint effects output is putting. So you up the sub-segments and it'll be a smoother hair. And so the next thing is thinning. The thinning, what it does is it starts to, at the end of the curve or at the tip of the hairs, it'll add a little bit of thinness. You can see how it softens it. If you don't do the thinning, it'll be the same consistency all the way through, and it won't look nice and thin towards the end. It'll look better when you add thinning. Clump twist will just twist the clumps, obviously. And so now we can up the hairs per clump. I'm going to show you why nothing happens. Also, sometimes this happens when you add too many. It says max segments. You need to go into the PFX shape and add a 0 in the max segments. This will allow you to go past that warning. Okay, so I have 20 hairs per clump. Now I'm going to up the clump width. And so as soon as I do that, you'll be able to see that, oh, whoa, there's the hairs. You can't see the hairs per clump until you add clump width, okay? So I'll just kind of up this kind of high. You can go past 1 if you want. I wouldn't recommend it all the time. Actually, I would never recommend going over 1. If you need to go over 1, that kind of means you need more curves. So in Zbrush, I would just export a higher number. But for this case, we'll just up the hairs per clump and the clump width pretty high. And that's all the settings really. The last one is the hair width, but we're going to play around with this because you have to do render tests to find out. And this has a lot to do with your scale, so it's going to change. But you can make it work for your scene. Okay, so let's close out of that, and let's go into shading. So it's pretty basic. Just pick your hair color. I'm going to go for like a darkish brown kind of thing. There we go. And so the next thing is our specular color. I would just generally go for a lower desaturated value. The Maya hair systems aren't really good with the spec, okay? So just go low with it, and you can play around with that. The specular weight is power is gonna be kind of like, think about the intensity of the spec, or like the the sharpness of it. So if you want a wet hair, I would up this to a higher value. Um, Pretty much that's what you need to do to get your hair system set up. Let me show you what happens after you get a render test up. Okay, so my final gather settings were a little bit whack, and the hair width was a little bit too small. So I'm going to come in and make it back to its original value, and let's see what we can do from there. Go into your final gather settings, and go ahead and turn down that point density to 0.1. We don't need it that high. And up the point interpolation. And you're also okay, so already we got some hair. We still need to up the hair width a little bit. It's not enough, and like I said, the major issue is that we need to export more curves from Zbrush, denser curves. But for the most part, I hope you learned the material and just the workflow for bringing Fibermesh from Zbrush into Maya and getting a render. Thanks for watching.